Thanks, Shirsha. This is Mike McFarland. I run product management at Bennu Networks and have been in the networking and telecom industry for a couple decades now, and excited to have you guys join us today.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll go ahead and give you guys a little bit of an overview, obviously, about what we're talking about today, which is the advantages of transitioning to network virtualization with a virtual Wi-Fi access gateway. And then I will tell you a little bit about Bennu Networks really quickly, just for those of you that maybe aren't so familiar with us. And then I can hand the mic over to Mike. So as I had mentioned previously, if you guys aren't familiar with Bennu Networks, we've been around for a while. We were established in 2010, and since then have evolved, as I'm sure you guys are familiar with, the market has evolved since then as well. We have global offices all over the world, but our headquarters are here in Boston. Historically, we've been an industry leader in Wi-Fi access gateways, which we'll talk a lot about today. And our team is mostly engineering led, so we really have a keen eye and focus on research and development and really sort of pushing innovation forward as rapidly and reliably as we can. So just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of who we work with and where we work, as I had mentioned previously, we're a global company, so we do have customers spread out throughout the world. We work with a lot of different types of customers on a lot of different use cases, which we'll also touch on today, particularly from a Wi-Fi access gateway perspective. But just to give you a little bit of sample, we work with a lot of the leading vendors in the US, and same goes for EMEA as well. And we do carry carrier grade hardware and software for businesses of all size. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we scale that later in the presentation, but it is something to note that, we really are pretty versatile with who we work with and how we can help fit into your portfolio today. And since we've been around for a while, and we've obviously built up a really awesome group of customers, we have managed to be able to create software and hardware that makes it easier for those operators to focus on their jobs, and we sort of keep things up and running. And so to give you guys a solid idea of what I mean by that and how much traffic we handle, we have nodes connecting through our software every single day, from 7 petabytes a day with 24 million connected wireless LAN APs and CPE gateways, which is actually more traffic than all of the North American mobile operators combined. So we're not talking about traffic here. We're talking about a big being able to and really make things are up. So today, what we're going to talk a little bit about is our Wi-Fi access gateway, and we'll take that lens a little bit wider to talk about the greater sort of impact of a Wi-Fi access. You can use that to your advantage, even with the infrastructure in place today. And so with that, we'll run through what we mean by the value of a virtualized WAG, what are some use cases that you can jump into, and really sort of proving that ROI from that investment and from those different use cases that you're able to bring up. And then as I had mentioned earlier, we'll save some time at the end for questions, but feel free to send them in and I'll try and bring them up as quickly as I can. All right, and I'll hand it over to Mike to get you a little bit more details about our Wi-Fi access gateway. We'll get started.
Okay, thanks, Shirsha. Can you tell me if you can hear me? Because I want to make sure my voice is coming through clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounding good.
Great. Okay. Nothing worse than being a silent webinar. So yeah, I want to jump into a little bit of the demands being put on some of the networks these days, and this really applies to both homes and businesses. Where you see more than just basic internet access occurring, but people starting to use immersive experiences. Something that's particularly relevant right now is the number of teleworkers, since most of us seem to be working from home at this point. and some of us may be working from home for an extended period. There's also a lot of IoT going into the market. You know, it's not just thermostats anymore, but lighting systems, door locks, you know, all kinds of things in the home as well as in businesses, various sensors and whatnot that are starting to communicate. And there's not only additional connections there and some additional traffic, but also some serious security concerns because some of these IoT devices control important things. And so that's another demand on the network and on people providing network services. And of course, more and more applications keep moving to the cloud, and over-the-top services has really grown a lot. So you have a lot of demands going on the network, and it's, you know, lots of challenges to face if you are a network provider. One of the things we wanted to look at today was first in the consumer space, and then we'll switch over to the business side of things. But, you know, positive, you know, what if you could extract more value from your existing residential gateway? And so normally in a home, the SSID is for that home, and it's just one SSID, so it's one network. But most residential gateways do support two SSIDs, and so not all carriers are actually leveraging that capability. Yet it's a fairly easy thing to enable, and can provide some significant benefits to your business. So how is that? Well, there are some use cases that we see with our customers that are starting to grow in more popularity. So one is Home-as-a-Hotspot. I'll talk more about what that is, as well as all these services. But Home-as-a-Hotspot, basically offering a hotspot service essentially wherever you have a residential subscriber. We're going to talk about guest Wi-Fi networks, which is a similar type of service for homes. Remote and teleworker, which is of course very timely given the quarantines occurring. And then another service, not necessarily related to that second SSID, but also related to home broadband, which is rapid activation. And this is a way to accelerate revenues and get customers signed on to your broadband services faster and more elegantly. So let's first talk about Home-as-a-Hotspot and what we are talking about there. So this is essentially putting an operator SSID on the home Wi-Fi networks. And because that residential gateway has generally a capability for a second SSID, it would be possible to have your brand basically being broadcasted on all the access points, you know, residential gateways that are out in your network. And so this allows basically any of your, and most operators who roll this out, allow any of their broadband subscribers to connect to any one of these access points. And there are some significant benefits to this. One is that it has been proven to increase customer retention, because customers now have this convenient service where they can connect to these other residential gateways or access points that are out and about. And so you know, there's specific benefits here, even, you know, from a personal standpoint. You know, as a Comcast subscriber, they have an Xfinity service that is like this, where it's all the access points have the Xfinity SSID. So when I go to a friend's house and they're also a Comcast subscriber, I can automatically connect on to the Wi-Fi there without having to, you know, ask them for the password for that Wi-Fi and then type it in, you know, 3 times because I, you know, fat finger it and, you know, get it wrong. Well, I don't have an uppercase letter. So it's very convenient. And of course, reciprocally, when people come to visit me, it's very easy for them to get onto the Wi-Fi. And I'm not having to share my home Wi-Fi password. And And of course, there's other use cases as well. So my kids go to a local elementary school. There's terrible cellular service at the school and in the schoolyard. And so I will connect to a Wi-Fi connection while I'm there if I need to get some information. Connect to a local Xfinity Wi-Fi access point that's in a home that's just across the street. And so this is a great service that really does increase at least my, my loyalty to Comcast service. It certainly boosts brand awareness, and brand awareness is particularly important for broadband. When you move into a new area, that's oftentimes when you're going to sign up for broadband. And when you are constantly seeing, like in this case, Xfinity, it makes you think of, hey, maybe Comcast has service here because I clearly see their SSID all over the place. So it brings that carrier to be top of mind, and so that helps with new customer acquisition. And then there's also the opportunity for pay-as-you-go revenue. And it was an interesting use case here where I was talking to someone who works over in Europe but travels to the U.S. to be at headquarters quite frequently, every couple of weeks. And he usually stays at his parents' house, but his parents actually have not gone to the effort of getting broadband service. They're a little older and they simply don't have it. So when he's at their house, he pays for broadband service from basically one of these carrier hotspot networks, and he's basically connecting on to another neighbor's connection. Now, one of the things you can do to sort of course, some operators may have concern that, well, it's going to impact the service that I'm providing to my subscribers as well. But you can limit the bandwidth of the service so that you're not creating any kind of significant impact on the bandwidth that's in the neighbor's house. And so there's ways to manage this such that you're creating this amenity service that creates this customer retention and builds your brand, but doesn't really impact the existing subscribers. And of course, you can always let subscribers opt out of it if it really bothers them. But for me, it's a big convenience, and I would never opt out of it. The other option, of course, is to give your subscribers an ability to set up a guest Wi-Fi network. So maybe it's not going to have the carrier's brand, but it's going to be Mike's guest network. So when people come over, I can give them the guest network password, and I'm not giving them access to my home network. And of course, this is something that can also increase customer retention, because a service like that will make me as a subscriber be less likely to want to switch if I now have to, if I know I'm not going to have this guest network capability. And particularly if you are someone who is aware of security and knows that having a separate guest network is really a better, secure way to put guests onto your internet service. It's certainly very convenient because I can give the guest network password could be maybe something very simple. And then I would say it's essential for someone that's doing Airbnb because if you go online, you read about should I use my Airbnb Wi-Fi? There's all kinds of articles about why you should not use someone's Wi-Fi. You don't know what they're doing there, and it's also inconvenient for the landlord or the person renting out as an Airbnb landlord. They have to now share their home Wi-Fi ID. They don't know necessarily who you are, whether you would come back later and try and hack them or something. So this separate guest network, the way it gets set up is it really just tunnels traffic directly out to the carrier's core network, and it's not going. It doesn't have any access to the home network. It's very much a separate network. So I'd say that this is a big convenience for Airbnb properties, and we see this as a huge differentiator, particularly in multi-dwelling units where there's a relatively high number of Airbnb rentals. So why, roll these things out? It's not just to improve the, the overall customer experience. It's also to create some real business benefits And we find that our customers typically achieve a 10 to 25% reduction in their churn. And that's significant. So we wanted to just run some basic numbers here to show you how the math works. So if you have in scenario A here an operator who is got no home hotspot service, no guest Wi-Fi service, compared to operator 2 that does have home hotspot and guest Wi-Fi. And as a result, like I said, we typically would see them get a 10 to 25% reduction in churn. So a 20% reduction in churn would be from 5% to 4%. So that 4% is now their churn number compared to the 5%. And these are pretty good numbers for an annual churn rate. This means you're only losing 4 out of 100 customers every year. So that means you have very good retention. And there is an additional cost to roll out, home as a hotspot or a guest Wi-Fi service, but it's not very much because you're using the existing network that you have, and you're using the existing residential gateways, and really just enabling an additional feature on them. And so, in the case of the first operator, they're not doing anything; it's status quo, so they're not making an investment there. But we do find that the amortized cost of adding home as a hotspot and guest Wi-Fi service is probably about $1 a year per customer. So not very much, but there is some cost. But the revenue that you're going to get from that, because you have reduced your churn, is an extra $600 to $1,800, assuming that that customer that doesn't churn out stays with you for another year or to 3 years. And typical broadband rates, you'd probably earning about $600 a year for the broadband. It's about $50 a month. Could be more, could be a little less. But that's roughly in the order of magnitude. So you're talking about a 6x to 18x return. It's not a very big investment, and yet you get a very good return, and you get better statistics, in terms of your churn rate, which of course puts less burden on your marketing teams to go and acquire new customers. Because whenever you lose a customer, now they've got to go figure out how to acquire a new one. Otherwise, you'll have a declining subscriber base over time. So this has been a very lucrative investment for our customers that have gone down this path. I want to transition to some business services, and this is an interesting service that some of our customers are just launching, and that is a service to create a remote and teleworker or teleworker network. So you have the home SSID, but again, with that second SID, it could be a corporate SSID. And so at my home, I could have the Bennu Networks SSID lit up onto my residential gateway by my carrier in cooperation with my company. And why would this be a valuable service? Well, first of all, you could provide bandwidth priority to that network versus the rest of the home network. And perfect case in point, hopefully my voice is coming through clearly and the slides are coming through clearly. I did ask my kids to go outside for the hour during this webinar because I know that when they're inside, they're usually either doing some homeschooling stuff, which a lot of times watching a video from their teacher, which takes a lot of bandwidth, or they might be doing some gaming, which also takes a lot of bandwidth. So by having bandwidth priority, you probably wouldn't have to have them go outside and not use devices online. And of course, throughout the day, there's cases where I'm on a video conference call and people say, "Oh, you suddenly broke up," or you lost your. And I know that it's most likely due to utilization on my home network. The other thing, of course, is if you have a corporate network, sort of installed on your home via the second SSID, you can provide additional security services. And you keep your device really sort of segmented from the other devices on the home and other things that are going on the home network. So, and that traffic can go through unified threat management platforms. So there's a lot of things you can do to address increased security requirements of a business. And of course, The nice thing about this solution is there's really no VPN clients required. So for them, in some cases that, you still need a VPN client because it might be a mobile worker that travels a lot, goes to hotels and whatnot. But there's a lot of people, particularly now, that, maybe a customer service center person who usually is working in a customer service center, like an office, but is now working from home. And they don't really travel to hotels for their job or whatnot. But they are at home and they're trying to, service customers over their home broadband. Again, probably like me, competing with, kids and spouses and other people in the house for bandwidth. And so those people they can use this service and they really don't need a VPN client because they're really only doing their work from their home office. And not having a VPN client can be a huge value to IT groups. First of all, of course, reduces the cost of having to acquire those VPN clients, but also the ability to, not have to troubleshoot device compatibility issues, not having to tell someone, well, you need to upgrade to the latest OS on this particular platform, whether it's a phone or or a laptop or a Mac or whatever. So a lot of benefits there. And this is a huge opportunity, for corporations to, really benefit from a service like this. And carriers have now a way to really differentiate their business services. So there's some key benefits here, right? They can differentiate their business services. There's an incremental revenue stream, and they can leverage their existing footprint of their broadband networks. Now, SD-WAN vendors, we've seen some, are seizing the opportunity directly with enterprise, but it requires about a $200 box to go into the home, plus an SD-WAN cloud subscription. And so broadband carriers really have a significant advantage here and really should not miss the teleworker opportunity. So the key advantages being leveraging the existing infrastructure, having a reduced cost solution because you can use the existing residential gateway with the current customers. You can ease the deployment, like we mentioned earlier about clients versus just putting this onto the gateway. And you can also provide an employee self-management option where there's a portal where they can regulate how much bandwidth is going to the teleworker network versus to the home network, or other features and functions. Whereas the SD-WAN vendors, they really need to put something into each employee's home, and there's usually an expensive SD-WAN subscription. So there's a lot of different segments that would benefit from a teleworker solution, not just now, but long term. And these are some of them. And I think the world is going to change now after this COVID-19 event. A lot of people, I think, will move towards more teleworker type of solutions. And I know that some of these large customer service centers, they may decide we don't need to have a big office space. We can have people work from home. Healthcare, I think telehealth is really taking off, and I think it will stay to a certain extent because it's very convenient for the patients not to have to drive into a doctor's office if they don't feel like the physical interaction is necessary. So there's a lot of cases here where I think there's a great opportunity, and this is the moment to seize on it. And we do see some of our customers taking advantage of this and it really is a great service to people that are dealing with this terrible situation with COVID-19. It really helps at least enable them to be productive from a work perspective. Okay, so I wanted to talk about one other use case, which is related to getting broadband service hooked up a little bit faster. And one of the challenges that you always hear is when customers try and get internet service for the first time, it takes anywhere from 14 to 30 days for the service to be turned on. And this period of time is when service providers are most vulnerable to customer loss during this period. We actually had a customer look at their churn rate that was specifically during this period of time between they get the order and the installation is complete. And it was extremely high compared to like their normal churn rate. And so not only are they missing out on the revenue for those 14 to 30 days, because it'd be great if they could get the revenue right away, day one, but they're also losing a bunch of the customers that they spent money marketing to and acquiring. And the thing is, today, a lot of people expect 1 to 2 day shipping, right? We all want our things to arrive quickly. It's not a culture of like, let me wait a couple weeks for something. So being able to be responsive is going to give a carrier an advantage. And so we have a service called Rapid Activation that some of our customers are using, that combines a low-cost Wi-Fi plus LTE unit that basically allows users to have a Wi-Fi network in their home and then uses LTE as the internet connection. And by getting that out quickly, the customer can have service, within a couple days, however long it takes to ship that little unit out there, while they're waiting for that landline service installation to complete. So the benefit there is you're getting that revenue, up front, within a couple days, and you are not having such a high churn rate. And so this is sort of a graphical illustration of this problem where the order is created, the job ticket then is created in a work order, but a lot of times, there's something that needs to be done to install the service. Now, not all the time. Sometimes there's service sort of just needs to be kind of turned on, and so then it's pretty quick. But there's a lot of cases where something has to be done on site, and that's where the big delays occur. So to mitigate that, for those particular use cases, those particular situations, that's when this solution really comes in handy. So when the order is created, you can ship this little Wi-Fi device. And the process that we've developed with this is that you power on the device, you basically connect to like an onboarding SSID or a connection SSID that's already configured on the box. It takes you to a walled garden where you are now allowed to create your account, or select your account, select your service, set up your home SSID, and then now you've got a home SSID you can now connect with whatever you use. So I would just call it Mike's Home. And then, after that process, which only took minutes, the wireline installation is still occurring. So a week or two later, that will get turned on, and I will then ship back the little Wi-Fi device, and I now use the new service that's been installed. So this is I think a great opportunity for carriers to differentiate themselves and improve the customer experience. We also have some going even a step further, where at an MDU, like a multi-dwelling unit, like multifamily, or some sort of managed MDU, the devices can be provided on the move-in day by the MDU staff. So literally picture this: you've moving into a new apartment, or maybe it's student housing or some sort of place that has some staff, and when you move in, they give you your keys and they give you this device and they say, you can get internet access today. And your likelihood of closing that customer versus some other broadband carrier is very high, because they're going to hook on, they're going to have access right away, they can sign up for their service. And so in this case, the order creation actually occurs on that captive portal. So they power on the device, they connect in, they create their account, they select the service they want, and now they've basically signed up for your service without even making a phone call. So it's a very cost-efficient way to onboard customers, particularly in an MDU environment. So this is online access is becoming sort of as critical as most of the utilities in a home. So people don't want to wait 1 or 2 weeks; they want to get online right away. I also wanted to talk about some enterprise use cases of the Wi-Fi access gateway. I wanted to pause. I think Saoirse, did you have a poll you might want to?
Sure, we can launch that now. I'll do the first one. So if you guys have a chance, it'll pop up on your screen. Feel free to answer. Yeah, and then when I end it, it'll remove that window. Okay, so it seems like most of you are using a Wi-Fi access gateway, some virtual, some hardware-based. Awesome.
Okay, great. So let's go into some of the enterprise use cases. So the other uses of our WAG, and some of these have been deployed either by carriers for their customers or by other channel partners that we have that are deploying into venues. So for venues, you have this variety of needs: guests, vendors, IoT, there's private staff networks. And our platform is particularly good at addressing the needs of each of those separately. So you might have unique authentication schemes, unique mobility requirements, different security needs, the bandwidth management of these and how that is managed particularly over the WAN or internet connection, any kind of different routing policies, and then of course analytics and performance monitoring. So we have a pretty good solution for this segment, and we've been deployed in some large venues. I suppose maybe if there's any race car drivers or at some of the racetracks like the Daytona 500. So that's one of the use cases more in the enterprise deployment. And then I mentioned MDUs earlier for our rapid activation, but it's also in general a good solution for MDUs where again you have a variety of needs, and also a particularly large number of users. And then there's general enterprise and education deployments as well that we get put into. So a lot of different ways that you can use our Wi-Fi access gateway. So these are some of the different applications. Saoirse, I think you had one other poll that you wanted to.
Sure. I was going to say that for the end, but I can do that now.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't realize. Sorry.
No worries. So I'll launch it now, and you guys will have access to it too. So just feel free to respond. All right. And Mike, you can keep going, and I can sort of shed some light on these once we're done before we get to questions, and then we can talk about that.
All right. Great. So how do you, so we've talked about some of the use cases. How do you capture the value of these and capture that with leveraging network function virtualization? So there's a lot of drivers for virtualization. And there's ranging from cloud computing to hyperconverged infrastructure and quick service provisioning, on-demand service migration. So I'd say that there's no question in my mind why the market has moved already and continues to move more and more towards virtualized solutions. The sort of dedicated hardware, proprietary hardware-based solutions really are something that will be a relic of the past at some point. But some of the key benefits that we believe you should achieve from network function virtualization are these four. So the hyper-elastic scalability, that's both scaling up but also scaling down. There's service creation agility benefits. There's generally more freedom in terms of using different vendors and having a more open network solution, and a lot of deployment flexibility. And if we dive into each of these a little bit more in detail, so scaling up or down easily as the needs of your customers change is critical. And if you think about different deployment scenarios or different types of customers, right? Some sometimes there's going to be a need for a very low capacity Wi-Fi access gateway. And so the WAG doesn't need to be on a big, piece of expensive hardware. It can be on a relatively small server. And then there's other cases where you need very high capacity. And this could also fluctuate over time. So the ability to run on off-the-shelf servers versus proprietary hardware that comes in specific scaling, that flexibility of sort of run on any server really gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of how you're going to scale your solution. And you're also, and of course, when you're running VMs, you don't even have to use all the CPU and memory of an individual server. You're using just a slice of it. Another aspect, of course, is service creation agility, and this is important if you want to be able to, excuse me, upsell your current customers, but also gain new customers, track them with additional features, and then also offering cutting-edge services that allow you to provide some more innovation more quickly. And also being able to do this in a seamless way really ends up with happier customers because you're able to be more responsive to their needs. And so being able to add new services quickly it gives a carrier a big advantage. Another aspect is vendor freedom and open network. So having best of breed solutions to choose from and integrate with your Wi-Fi access gateway really gives you an ability to innovate more freely and to extend the capabilities beyond what any one given vendor provides. So it's important to look for solutions that have open APIs and are supportive of using other third-party solutions as part of the overall package. And then, deployment flexibility. So because of the elastic scalability, because of the service creation agility, and because of this vendor freedom, it really allows you to use a solution in a lot of different environments. And so being able to use it for broadband type services, for enterprise services, for education, for MDUs, having that deployment flexibility is really valuable because you've invested in a platform that can then be used in a lot of different ways. So we find that proprietary hardware-based WAGs really limit the possibilities. And the main thing is they promote vendor lock-in. They generally are limiting your scalability and expansion because once you get to the limit of that hardware, you're stuck, and now you've got to pay for a major upgrade, or you're stuck with what you've got. It really offers, generally speaking, little to no flexibility with dynamic service additions. So it's usually more of a closed system and doesn't have the same open APIs, and there's lack of service and capability versatility. So you're not going to be able to use probably the same platform for a whole bunch of different use cases because it just doesn't scale up and down as far as using off-the-shelf hardware. So our approach is definitely to use a virtualized solution. We used to be a hardware-based vendor years ago, back in 2010, in our early years. But over the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, we've moved towards virtualized solutions. And we are very supportive of multi-vendor approaches, and we have very good scalability, both scaling up and scaling down. We have the open programmable interfaces that allow you to plug in not only additional services from Venue, but also from other vendors. And we really have found that by taking this strategy of these 3 tenants, customers have been able to really use us in a lot of different ways, and so it's very versatile deployments. So where we sit in the network is typically aggregating Wi-Fi connections from either a local area network or LAN or the carrier access network. And to be more specific, for typical service provider Wi-Fi or hotspot networks, we'll sit at the edge of the broadband network and generally interfacing to AAA or portal or some other policy framework. Similarly, for enterprise education or venues, it could be a AAA-based system, or it could be more of a REST-based API system using a portal. And then we also have our MDU solution, where we have specific user interfaces both for the MDU owner and also for the tenants. And we have a variety of other types of applications, but these are some of the example use cases that I wanted to highlight. So the Wi-Fi access gateway that we've built provides a pretty broad set of functionality, and we can do this at any scale. It is going to be authenticating, authorizing, and accounting the subscriber connections. We're usually providing the IP address to those connections and acting as a DHCP server. We also provide the carrier-grade NAT in most of our deployments, as well as then a complementary firewall function that comes with that. And there's very advanced bandwidth management, ranging from queuing and rate limiting, but also hierarchical QoS if you wanted to have different hierarchies of prioritization. We can do service policies either per access point, per end user device, or per application. We support lawful intercept for regulated entities that need to provide the lawful intercept for law enforcement. And we have a variety of analytics capabilities as well. The portfolio is not just virtual machine software. We do have our virtualized solution running on some servers to be prepackaged. So for some customers, they want to not only get the software, but they want already installed and up and running bare metal on a typical x86-based server. And so we have some platforms like that come kind of prepackaged for the software to simplify some of the deployment for those customers that want that. And so the business access gateway is really targeted more for those enterprise type deployments where you're installing this on a local area network. You'd be supporting from 50 to 1,000 access points in this case on that platform, up to 20,000 clients, but scales down to 250 as well. And we can support up to 14 gigabits per second of traffic on that platform. Stepping up in terms of throughput and number of access points and clients is our Wi-Fi access gateway, and that runs on our XMEG 10 or XMEG 100 or XMEG 200 platforms. And these obviously provide very high scale, so up to 200 gig of throughput and 512 million sessions, million clients. So it's quite high scale. And then there's our virtual machine software, which you can bring your own hardware in that case and run at any scale. We support KVM, VMware, and OpenStack environments, and we also support a variety of I/O capabilities, so PCI pass-through or SRIO, over I/O. And then we also have done a lot of interop with a variety of management and orchestration providers. So we've been participating in some of the Etsy Plug Fests over the last couple of years. And that's been also a great way for us to stress test our interoperability and our standards interfaces. So a couple things I wanted to mention about how we've made this platform very open and programmable. So we do, like I mentioned earlier, support a Radius interface for AAAs, but we also support REST APIs, and we also have a Kafka API for analytics, for streaming the analytics over to what we call our subscriber session control cloud. This is a cloud service, also can be purchased as a software solution. And this then can interface either to our own management cloud, which provides a variety of user interfaces to manage various solutions. So there's the more administrative functions like our operations manager, our boss solution, which is a performance management solution. There's a site manager for individual sites. But there's also end user portals, both for consumer applications and business. So for example, in the case of like the Teleworker solution, there's a specific UI where you as a home worker, home teleworker can log into this portal or UI, and on that website you'll be able to specify how much bandwidth your corporate SSID should get versus the home SSID. So things like that. We also support like a customizable guest portal. So for homes or businesses that you want to offer a guest Wi-Fi service to, they can go and self-configure their guest portal and the settings on that. And that really reduces the burden on a managed service provider or carrier because the customers have a very simple UI to self-manage their service with. And then, of course, you don't have to use our portals. There's third-party portals as well as, and we support, our standard REST APIs to those as well. And we have, several. I mean, we have many deployments with third-party portals, so we're completely open to that. The other thing that we do on the platform is to chain in services on the data plane. And so these services, some of them we actually have an offering, some of them we don't, and we don't really care. You can bring your own stack of best of breed services, and whether it be parental control, or you want to do intrusion detection, or some sort of SD-WAN solution, we can stitch those in. And so we have a variety of partners that we've already worked with, but it's actually very easy to add these things into the overall solution, and then they can be managed from our virtual infrastructure manager as well. Giving, this obviously gives you a lot of flexibility to use the platform for a wide variety of customer use cases and to be more nimble about providing services for those varied customer needs. And then lastly, I wanted to mention how, because of the flexibility we're providing, both in terms of the programmability and the third-party services support, you can use our platform for a wide variety of applications. We've talked about the Home-as-a-Hotspot, the guest Wi-Fi, rapid activation, and the Teleworker in more detail today. But we also get deployed for smart cities, as well as then all these enterprise type deployments that I've mentioned earlier, like venues and campus and K-12 education, MDUs, et cetera. So just to wrap it up, we do take a multi-vendor approach, and we enable our customers to service chain whatever they feel is the best combination of solutions. And the scalability is, I think, unparalleled in the sense that we scale very low onto small servers as well as onto very high-end servers, and it's the same code base. It just adjusts based on the number of cores and the amount of memory. that's available to it. And you know, the interfaces are open and programmable. We have these APIs that enable third-party policy layers to interface and control, you know, how subscribers are serviced, and also we've done a lot of interop with the Mano, you know, management orchestration solutions for NFV. And we do feel that it's a very multi-use platform. So once you've sort of invested in it for one use case, you can now take that and use that same platform for a variety of applications. And because there's all this flexibility in terms of the scaling and the services, and how you know, layer the policy and program it, you know, it really can be used for any application that you have. So we've used a fair amount of the time, but we do have, fortunately, some time left here for questions.
All right, and one of the things I'll give you guys some insight onto how you voted in the poll. So it looks like a lot of people are interested in rapid service activation and guest Wi-Fi, which is not a shock. I think those are sort of the core needs, I guess, and very applicable across a variety of different companies and customer bases. So I could see that being pretty popular. So if you guys have any questions you want to type in, just feel free to put it into the Q&A or in the chat. I can see both of them, so I'll read them out as fast as I can when they come in. And then I can actually relaunch this too, this poll as well. So if you guys want to revote or actually, you know what, maybe I won't, because I didn't realize it erases them. So maybe I won't, but if you guys obviously have any questions outside of this too that you feel like you want to ask, feel free to respond to your email invite. Those emails will go to me, and then we can get your questions answered as well if you didn't want to do it publicly, or if it's more of a specific, you know, use case issue that you want to work through, just let us know. Okay.
Well, I've either put them to sleep or I've answered all their questions.
I know, I was trying to look through and see. Okay. Well, that's good. I feel like everybody has a solid understanding. I know we spoke for a long time as well too. So I know that this is one of those topics that is a little bit more specific to, you know, what you guys have set up already. And typically we'll get a bunch of those questions outside of this because it tends to be, you know, you need a little bit more information on what you're doing and, you know, how our solution works. So that is totally okay.
Yep, and feel free to reach out, you know, with any questions or follow-up that you might need. So my email address there, and we're happy to help in any way.
All right, so without further ado, I'll give you guys, oh, we have one more that came in really quickly. How do you differentiate for provider QoS to a teleworker?
So in the case of the teleworker scenario, there's a second SSID that is set up, and that basically is treated like a separate network. And generally speaking, the residential gateway will also then mark a different VLAN on that traffic. And so two things can happen. One is, you know, most of the contention usually is on the downlink because of people streaming, and you know, people actually, it's interesting, streaming is no longer really streaming. You know, Netflix, YouTube, a lot of these applications now, what they do is they blast as much traffic down at you at the beginning of the video as they can. So they'll try and use as much bandwidth as they can. And that's because they're trying to, first of all, figure out what is your maximum bandwidth rate, because then they're gonna try and use that bandwidth on an ongoing basis to fill your buffer. And that's what they're doing. They're blasting down. So it's not really a stream anymore. And so what we can do is on that downstream, we see where the packets are destined, is they're routed to you know, either the corporate network SSID, you know, and that VLAN, or the home. And so we can throttle the bandwidth that's going to the home so that the teleworker who's on a webinar or a teleconference isn't going to suddenly, go, the call's not going to go silent on them. And on the uplink, we can also throttle the bandwidth at our WAG, which will, TCP will oftentimes then, I shouldn't say oftentimes, it will correct itself in terms of how much bandwidth it's trying to use. Or we also can do an ACS integration with the ACS server that manages the residential gateways, such that those residential gateways can throttle the uplink bandwidth from the home. So that's basically how we control bandwidth and differentiate the services, the QS services on the Teleworker network.
Okay, great. Any other questions really quick? I know we have 1 more minute left. Alrighty, well, I will let you guys get back to your day. Thanks so much for joining again, and keep an eye out for the recording of this in your emails within the next day or so.